Hello, companions. Hi, Brad. How are you?
Hello, good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was not nervous. And then right before we hit live, you said, I always get nervous over these things. And then I got really nervous.
I I get nervous going live on anything, but when I was an actor, I think I told you this, but when I was an actor, the way my body shows nervousness is I fall asleep.
You're going to fall asleep.
No, I just get. I was that guy backstage leaning against the wall with my eyes closed, and everybody used to say, "Oh my God, look at him, he's so calm." But I was just struggling to stay awake.
Well, I know there's a lot of budding young actors listening today, and I'm sure they will find a lot of solace in that. It is okay to
Stay
sleep.
awake is the is
Yeah.
the is the advice.
Yeah. Yeah. I also noticed you have a pretty nice looking polo on there.
Oh, you mean my companion? Oh, I
Your
always
little
get that first.
companion. Yeah. Yes, to
Companion,
everyone.
yes, there
We
we
did
go.
coordinate. Well, I don't know if we coordinated. Brad said, "I'm going to wear the polo for you on Saturday," and I said, "Okay," and then I wore the polo as well.
It's a cool shirt, actually. It's the shirt I like to wear golfing. So
It is an official, Adidas polo shirt. It's nicer than I actually thought it was going to be originally. So I'm
it's
so happy.
exactly as nice as I expected because my
It's your other
closet
shirt.
is full of
Yeah.
Adidas polos. They fit. Well, that's the reason. And I buy
Well,
90% of my clothing in a golf shop. So there's that too.
I mean, what else do you need other than maybe rainy day? Oh, I guess you could have a golf jacket. Is that what you would
That's
have?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People used to say we would try to sometimes sneak in a round of golf before we were shooting. After if we started early in the writers' room, and the days were getting longer, and I used to say, "Hey, you know what, Paul? Rob, let's go play 9 or 18 if we get it in before the light goes out." And they would say, "I'm not dressed for it," and then I'm always dressed
Yeah.
for a round
Yes,
of
you
golf, no
are.
matter what. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I always have my clubs in my car. So.
I noticed earlier you were drinking from a mug. Is that a Traveler's mug, or does it just happen to say Travelers on it?
This is a Travelers Season 1 mug that was given to me by Nesta Cooper as a gift, as a gift. And then there's a Season 2 one too that she gave us, which I thought was lovely. And because, the actor is not supposed to buy the producer the
No,
present, but
yeah.
I thought it was sweet. And
Oh, lovely.
she was great. And yeah, and it's my go-to mug. It's a perfect mug.
Wonderful.
I go
Well,
back and forth.
anyone who's watching today, if you haven't seen Travelers, it is very bingeable. You can, get through it in a couple of weekends. I'm sure it's
34 episodes, so you'd have to be really watching a lot of television.
Yeah.
It's still
I
34
didn't
hours.
say
of
watch
television.
all the seasons in once, like one
Yeah.
season at a time. You could
Oh,
do
fair,
that. Yeah,
fair,
you could
fair,
do 8 hours. You could do 8 hours a day, I think.
Yeah, I like to binge. But 2 is it for me. Two in the night is perfect.
Okay. Oh,
So
recently, when we had the time change and the whole Easter weekend,
yeah.
my wife and I literally watched all of season 1 of Slow Horses. Granted, it is only 6 episodes.
It is the best show, though.
Incredible.
Oh
So it's
my
like
God.
Friday, and then we stayed up till 2 a.m. watching it, and then Saturday, my wife's like, "Oh, what should we do? Should we watch Slow Horses again?" It's like, "Sure." And then it was like the whole season. It was like 2, 3 a.m. And then of course we had to finish it. So we finished all 3 seasons in a weekend.
And I keep thinking, oh, that's going to be it. Oh, well, that's it. And then they've shot it. Obviously, we're seeing it because we're seeing scenes from next season, and I'm like,
yeah,
you have them. There are them now. Show them to me now. Oh,
you know what the story is.
Oh my God, the acting is so good.
It is. Oh, it's incredible.
So top-notch television.
Incredible.
It's so good. It
Yeah.
makes me. It's the kind of show that makes me go, wow, I don't think I have this gear. This is really, really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to have TV shows to look up to, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, you don't have to look up to it, but it is fantastic. It's fantastic.
I'm
Yeah.
watching right now. I'm watching Masters of the Air, which is
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's good, but
Not quite Band
just
of Brothers.
well, no, but the
Yeah.
visual effects are so astounding. You think you're in a bomber
Hmm.
over Germany.
Wow.
It's just, I mean, they're doing stuff in CG that looks like models and looks like real aircraft. It's just blowing me away. It's just
Have you
killing
have
me.
you ever had a meeting with Apple TV? I don't know what they call it. Apple Plus, Apple TV?
Have I pitched them? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Have I sold them a show? No.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
pitched them, God, a few times now.
Yeah. Is it any
It's
different than, say, pitching a Netflix or pitching a MGM or anyone else?
no. No, it's
Okay.
they're all very similar in terms of the experience, except um, they've all re-embraced Zoom. And I don't mean
Oh.
re-embrace. They've embraced Zoom and kept it. So if I want to pitch now, they still want to do it by Zoom because they learned, oh my God, we can get 3 times as many meetings in on Zoom instead of in person. And for me, it's so much harder
Mhm.
to pitch because you can't really read the room. You can't
No.
really tell if they're fidgeting or if they're into it or whatever. And so I recently had a meeting that was going to be a Zoom, and I said, well, I'd prefer to fly down and meet in person. And it ended up being a lunch, and then I ended up spending over an
Oh.
hour and a half with the person, and that would never in a million years happen in a Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it bore, I think, potentially more fruit at least than it would have than the Zoom ever could have. Um, I just think we're all a little bit different in a Zoom too. We just have this there's a camera on me thing, but
Well, you're going to be at Basingstoke, and we've never
yeah,
met in real life,
that's
so
right.
we could all just be completely crazy towards each other. Who knows? Who knows what's
Yeah,
going
that's true. It's
to
like, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Basingstoke, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. We have you have been in Vancouver, and I think it was I in the UK at the time, or no, I wasn't in the UK. I was in
Maybe
Toronto.
in Toronto. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have a cottage in Toronto, and I try to spend a chunk of the summer there, but it's getting less and less doable.
Yeah. Well, because I remember you have told us in the past, when you were pitching Stargate, and I think one of the executives or something was saying like, "Oh, would you like call the team like SG1 or something like that?" And you're like, "Yeah, exactly, SG1. That's exactly what you would do." And is that the kind of thing that you might start to lose out on in these Zoom pitches, or is that part of the reading the room,
Um,
or is it kind of something else?
well, it's quite often you're going in as a team too, right? Like
Mhm.
my current producing partner, Carrie Mudd, and I sit beside each other or near each other, and if it's in person, she can like
Kick your
kind of
leg.
nudge me,
Yeah, 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 exactly.
literally kicking under the table,
Yeah.
uh, or move me along. Whereas in a Zoom, it's much more obtrusive, and so you're kind of alone. You don't really feel like you're in a team pitch as much.
You know what?
Uh,
I know exactly what you mean. Nick and I were pitching MTV one time,
yeah,
and it was around creating a fitness show, and you can just tell the guy wanted to buy it. He's like a tall, very fit person, really into, yoga, that kind of thing. And Nick just kept saying, um, like before we like do the show, we can see if like MTV audiences are like into, fitness, like data. We can like gather data. And I was kicking him so hard under the table. Shut up, shut up, shut up. He's buying, he's buying. Stop talking. Just let him
yeah,
talk.
yeah. Take
Yeah.
yes for an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that on a Zoom. Yeah.
Um, I I uh, I had a pitch. I won't net mention with whom,
Mhm.
but it was Robert Cooper and I, and this is a very long time ago. And the person across from us was a crazy person, and was saying crazy things. And I was talking, and I was trying very hard to keep it together, to not, basically not burst into laughter. And Rob kicked me under the table. And I laughed and I I said, oh, and then I just lost my train of thought, and just like I did now. But I must have turned so because I was laughing at what they were saying.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they were crazy enough to not even know what was happening, so
Oh, okay.
it was hilarious. I just remembered that.
All right.
And that's how you recharge your
Creativity,
creativity.
and then you get back into
Exactly.
it. Yeah, you get
Yeah.
really sad,
Yeah.
and then you come back the next day and you pitch again.
Exactly.
Yeah, as someone else kicks you under the table.
I was just taking it back to the theme. If I
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of the theme, just to let everyone else know, the last year now, almost, Amanda Tapping, and us have been doing this kind of ongoing series around embracing mental health. Terrell Rothery has also joined, and actually, soon Michelle Hurd from your kind of newly favorite show, Picard, she's going to be joining us as well
Oh,
with
that's
a
fabulous. Yeah, she's really
yeah,
good. She's really good.
yeah, and she's a huge supporter and champion of mental health and other charities, and so it'll be a whole new fandom. Hopefully, that can be introduced to what we're doing. And so yeah, anyway, that's why today, I thought talking about how to recharge your creative battery, and also, Hollywood being one of those really, really intense, industries, and then obviously you having to run multiple shows at the same time. I mean, being a showrunner of one show, which we'll get to, is I'm assuming so challenging, and then you're doing it for two. Obviously, you have a whole team and everything like that.
The team saves you.
Yeah,
The team
yeah.
saves you.
So, I mean, this is the first kind of question. I don't know if you even observed it or anything, but like over your career, has, I guess, the mental health conversation changed in Hollywood and in Vancouver, or yeah, how does that kind of, I don't know, in your experience, if it's even a conversation?
It's changed and it's ongoing.
Mhm.
Um, I think I think people are finally becoming aware that the hours that we work in television are not normal, and it hurts people or has the potential of hurting people. I
Mhm.
was in a conversation with my own daughters, both of whom are high school teachers, actually, over the Easter break, or it was the week before that, actually, and they were commenting on a hard work day, and I was like, part of me was like, you don't know what a hard work. But it's what we're asked to do in this business is kind of ridiculous,
Yeah.
and so uh, the normal real world wouldn't even dream. I mean, a normal work day with no overtime. I mean, the overtime is built into the fee. Is 12 hours.
Mhm.
That's a shooting day. It's 12 hours. You don't show up on hour one. You show up before. You check everything. Department heads are there, and people are there afterwards. And then if you go into overtime, you're shooting 12, 14 hours, crew members. And the director and the script supervisor and a whole bunch of people who have to be there around the clock are focusing and mentally there the entire time. It's astounding that there are more people losing it. But
Yeah.
it does explain the degree sometimes you see of people burning out.
Yeah.
Just it does happen.
I remember when my brother, he first got an internship at Fox Sports. And, at that point, you're just trying to really, prove yourself. And I think the way Fox used to do it was you work something like 12 to 16-hour days. You do get paid the overtime, but you can only work at most like 4 days a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And at the time, because, he was so young in his career and you don't really get paid as an intern. I think he did get paid as an intern, but you didn't get paid a lot. And he still lived in Orange County, and Fox is in LA.
Oh my
He
God,
would
the drive.
the drive would have killed him when he did the back-to-back days of the kind of 12 to 16 hours. So I remember he borrowed my mom's minivan, and he would drive to the Fox lot, and he would work a day, and he would bring a sleeping bag and an extra change of clothing, sleep in the Fox lot parking lot, go into the next day work, and then do the drive home. and he had to do that for I think 6 to 12 months, you know, as you're like proving yourself, and then then he gets a full-time job, and it's not as bad, and he can move to LA and all that.
I guess part of it's like, can you do it if necessary?
Yeah.
And I'm the first to admit, eventually, especially, I did not stay at work for 12 hours. Just, I had people who would be capable of handling the set for the last few hours of the day, and I like I've told you in the past, if I go to set that's either there's a question or something's wrong or whatever, it's not because I need to be there or I feel the need to be there. I used to just go and watch a couple of shots before I left because it was fun. Oh, this is the show we're making, right? It's not just stuff that's happening on the page or in the editing room. But on Travelers, we were shooting downtown, and in downtown Vancouver, and I live in a small town south of Vancouver, which during rush hour and various other times, it can take an hour and a half or longer to get into town, to get into the city. So I stayed in a hotel 3 nights a week downtown and just walked back after work. And so then I stayed around for a lot because I was also the only showrunner. I mean, Robert and I, and before that, Jonathan and I were able to share, duties and the clock. But and my wife loved it because she would come downtown and stay in the hotel and have a nice dinner, and then in the morning she'd get up and shop and not have to check out of a hotel room because I was there for 3 nights a week. And but the driving to and from that I saved because of that, it was like 6 hours a week, 7 hours a week, just to do that, and that's an enormous amount of brain time, right?
Oh yeah, huge. I mean, I think I once saw a study that for every additional hour that you need to drive to work, you need to at least add $100,000 of value, I think, to your home for it to be like equitable and worth it. So, that.
Well, I love this little town that we live in, and because it's on the ocean, and I see the ocean every day, and it's beautiful. And I also realized on Stargate that by the time I got home, because I still had to do that. I did that hour every day on Stargate. Usually, I was before rush hour in the morning, or after it. I rarely, I could adjust my hours, but I found that hour, or sometimes an hour and a bit, decompressing to a certain extent.
Okay.
I rarely took work problems home because I was able to take that hour and just process it or forget about it for whatever. And so I really, if I was mad about something or if there was an issue I was dealing with, by the time I got home, it was okay. And so in some ways, an hour's drive can be helpful. Like I, play some beautiful classical music and chill. I had a car phone though, and I was very reachable. So I spent a lot of time.
Like twins, twin style.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point, because I mean, these days, so many of us work hybrid. A lot of us, work from home we work from home every day, and you literally go from your office, and then you just take all of the baggage of work, home, or you're even working like us right now with the book, and then quickly eating, and then quickly coming back to work, and you're really. A friend of mine basically said this. They said, your family don't really understand the highs of what you're doing because they're not there. And so, like, for example, maybe you've been trying to chase down this contract for a really long time, or you're trying to get a supplier on board, these little things, and they might not understand. So when you get a huge victory, they can't really celebrate with you. But they all know when you go home and you're mad and you had a bad day, they know what that is. And so they can always experience the downs and the lows, but they can't really understand the highs. And so, anyway, I'm just.
There's one little way in our business that we celebrate highs, and that is we give each other trophies.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
This business is very good at award shows, and I was often very, very vocal, not for myself, but when especially in Canada, because we were in BC and because we were perceived as an American show.
Mhm.
We would do things that were astounding from a production perspective that wouldn't get recognized in awards.
Right.
I made a big stink about it, and then we started getting, some attention, and it's fun, And my wife does understand getting dressed up for an award
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Enjoy
We
that.
understand a nice night out.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to get,
Yeah.
put on a tux and go get a nice shiny trophy if you're going to get it. I mean, I my feeling about stuff like that is just be happy you're invited to the party. Never expect to win.
Okay, you are like that. You because like you sometimes hear like, oh, it's okay if I don't win. It's just good enough to be nominated. Is that kind of your approach, or do you?
Oh,
Do you
100%.
yeah,
100%. Mainly because I think if I think the work we've done is at a level that it should be at least invited to the party. The rest of that is just a bunch of people voting,
yeah,
and that is way more personal than it's like, oh yeah, I love that guy, and we, especially with Stargate, we were a British Columbia production, so Toronto was the center of the Canadian universe. So
yeah,
the fact that we weren't a Toronto show was already, forget it. But uh, but also we were perceived as American, and of course they could do that. They had $1 billion, that kind of thing. Um, but no, getting invited to the party, that's all I ever
Can
asked.
you
That's
can you
all I ever
describe what the party is like? Is it? I'm just imagining adult prom, and
Well, it depends on the show. It
okay.
depends on the show. I mean, there was a local show called the Leo Awards, which is a fun party to go to, but
Yeah.
it is a non-televised industry event that
Mhm.
is uh, it's fun to be nominated, but and it's fun to win there too because it's fun. It's fun to
Yeah.
give an acceptance speech.
How's the? Is it? Because what is it? The Oscars or something famously for being super long. People are hungry. They're sneaking carrot sticks in. That's not like you're talking about, like whether it's the Leos or something else. They
The
feed
Leos are
you. Like,
long. They're all
yeah,
long.
they're all
They're all
long.
long. The Canadian Screen Awards are long. I've only ever been invited to those a few times because my
Okay.
shows have only ever been nominated a few times. Travelers got nominated in its final season for
Mhm.
a CSA award, but no, it was the second season we got nominated. Did we ever get nominated for a CSA? Eric did.
Okay. Okay.
Eric did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that was good enough. And he didn't win either. So, but it didn't matter. We were invited to the party.
Yeah.
Um,
Champagne? Is it red wine, white wine? What is that? What is that
it's
like?
there's I got a fancy lifetime achievement award.
Yeah, you're like the first ever showrunner in
Oh, that
Canada.
was before. That was
Even
before.
before.
This is
Okay.
another
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
The Showrunner Award was a funny story because this was the Writers Guild of Canada Awards, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting at they asked me to come to a roundtable discussion of showrunners and people. So I said, yeah, I'll go to that. I'll go stay and visit some family and then go to that thing. And then they said, "Are you going to stay for the Screen Awards?" And I said, "Well, no, we're not nominated." And Maureen Parker, the head of the Writers Guild, said, "Yes, you need to go." And
Yeah.
I went, "Why?" "Just come to the awards, Brad. I'm telling you." And I went, Is there like a special?" She said, she just nodded. And I went, "Oh, okay."
You just
I
ruined
said,
everyone's
"Should
surprise.
I buy a suit?" And she went. So I literally went. I didn't have a suit with me. I literally went and bought a suit, and then I kind of ruined the surprise for myself. But it was the inaugural Showrunner Award,
Yeah.
and it was fun. The other one I knew I was getting,
Okay.
but the thing about Lifetime Achievement Awards is there's a little sadness in it because you're going, wait a minute, I'm not done yet. I want to keep.
Yeah.
Why are you giving me this award? Am I done? And then you start thinking, yeah, maybe I am, but that would be okay too.
Oh. Okay.
But yeah,
Um,
there's nothing my wife enjoys more than going to an award show.
yeah. And what is the food? I'm just going details now because I'm just trying to
Oh, the
imagine
food?
myself. What's the food like?
Some
Is it
kind of chicken. I
individual
don't.
plated kind of thing? Oh, but like it's not like a buffet line. They come and
No,
serve
no, no,
you,
no. They
and yeah,
come
yeah.
with servers, and it's lovely. And
Okay,
there's wine. There's
okay.
lots of wine. It's
Music and
always a
dancing
dinner.
afterwards, or you eat and
Uh,
you drink and you get out.
I no, I don't remember music and dancing except maybe the Saturn Awards. They were fun.
Yeah. Okay.
They're also the best award looking award there is.
Right.
They look so cool. I have a couple of those. Um, anyway, I shouldn't go on about awards, but they're fun, and that I guess
I just
this
want to know
was
about the
my
award
point.
show. Yeah. For
You
as someone
you
who,
hand each
you
other
know,
trophies.
yeah, yeah. I just want to know what the food's like and the drink, and imagine what that's like. So
It's some kind of chicken. It's always some kind of chicken,
yeah, yeah.
and it's usually pretty good. And if your category hasn't come yet, you don't eat it. You just kind of
You just
pick at it.
let it go
And then
go cold.
as soon as you lose, you want to eat
Yeah.
your chicken, and it's gone. It's been taken away.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a wedding, I guess. You're waiting for
It
the
is a lot
speeches you
like a
don't want to
wedding.
eat, and then you got cold beef on
It's a
your
lot
plate.
like a wedding, and I love weddings too.
Yeah.
I've been MC at quite a few weddings in my time. It's fun. I love being an MC at a wedding. It's my actor. Give me a microphone and a glass of wine, and I'm gone. I love to
Yeah.
I love to be an MC at weddings.
Okay. Well, should we get into some questions on writing and
I can't even believe we're talking about this stuff. Yes, let's get into the theme
the
of
meat?
the
Let's get into
actual
the chicken. Let's get into the beef and
yeah
chicken.
the
One question is from DT. And it kind of maybe sets up, the kind of writing question. So Rebecca, if you can show DT's question, would you be able to do that for us? And I'll read it out loud. So she says, I don't consider myself creative. I would love strategies to help someone, recondition themselves to become creative after a lifetime of drawing within the lines. And that's something where I don't know, sometimes I hear like routine is like really important for whether it's like athletes or other people like that. I don't know. Is there anything like that I know that you use to? I mean, maybe you're always creative. So
no
anyway,
I
there.
well
Yeah.
I felt I've created stuff my whole life. I've always just been a creative person, but
Mhm.
I don't I don't I object to the phrasing of the question. I don't consider myself creative
Yeah.
because every job has to have an element of creativity.
Mhm.
It just by you can't you can't be productive without, to a certain extent, having done an amount of creative problem solving.
Yeah.
I just think that's a fact. I mean, um, and also, if you remember my essay, I think it's okay to draw within the lines.
Yeah.
It's okay to draw within the lines. Um, it's sometimes when people go wildly outside the lines, it just screams bullshit to me.
Mm.
And people go, "Oh, isn't that creative?" And I go, "No, it's not creative. There's real art requires technique and knowledge and skill that comes from drawing within the lines.
Yeah.
At first, at least, you can't, like, every good writer breaks all the grammatical rules in the world, but they do know how to do it, and
Yeah.
then they can break the rules.
Yeah.
Same with a good artist. They can break the rules and they can draw outside the lines quite literally because they learned how to draw within first. That's breaking down the question very specifically. The other thing that I would argue is the best way to do a project and try to be creative is to start.
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many people have said to me, "Oh, I want to write something." Well, then
Right.
start.
Yeah. Start writing.
Wanting to do something is not doing the thing.
Yeah.
Dreaming of doing something is not doing the thing. And then, more important, then that, after you start, the next most important thing is to finish. Because so many people I've met said, "Oh man, I've got 20 pages of a great screenplay. Do you want to read it?" And I go, "No, finish it.
Yeah.
Finish it." And then it's the best way of getting out of reading anything is by telling them to finish it. And then after they finish their first draft, say, "Okay, now you have to do another draft to show people."
Yeah.
Because it's only fair that that if you're going to make me read it once, you should at least go through it twice.
Yeah, I mean, I want to shed some light on this, and I'm really glad you're talking about it. I think there's two things that you're saying that I wanted to highlight. On the last point, like for example, because I've only read one thing you've ever written, which is the Stargate pilot thing, and I think when you sent it to me, there were even like 6 versions of that draft already, which probably meant
Yes.
the first draft was already completed, and yet it was polish. And I think sometimes maybe people don't know how many like finished drafts, like final.
More than that. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably did 3 before of most scripts than before I showed anyone. I used to have this thing when I was in production, and I still have this problem. I start on page 1 every day when I'm writing.
Okay.
Which means that I don't just go to the end and keep typing. I go back to page 1 and read and then fix along the way. It's one of the reasons page 1 has so many typos in every one of my scripts, because it's had so much attention.
Yeah.
And then one of the reasons I do that is so that I can say I've done, even to myself, multiple passes on a script before I hand it to anyone.
Yeah.
So that when they see it, generally everything except the last day's work has been gone over multiple times by me, at least. And that is before you see a first draft.
Right. Yeah.
And then first draft gets notes from everybody, and then especially on a television show, you get notes on your staff on your first draft, and then you do another set of notes based on everybody's notes to you. Like I had a bunch of really smart people giving me notes, like Rob and Paul and Joe and Carl and Martin and Alan and Peter and Martin, directors, and John Smith and John Lennox are producers, because it's important for them to get a production look at it, and then you do another draft based on their notes, and that would often take a couple of days, and then you send it to the studio or the network, and it still says first draft on it, because they're not going to want to read anything that says second draft. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of iterations, and then of course you get notes from them, you get notes from the studio, you get notes from the art department, every other thing, location says, and we can't do that or whatever, and so hopefully, if you're doing it right, the revisions get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Which after production draft, which is when you number the script, you start seeing asterisks in scripts, because those are the changes, right? The scripts that go into production that have a ton of asterisks in them have gone through a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I remember during Travelers, I was in my office, and it was near the end. I had like 12 scripts on my desk. I like to stack them up because it had a sense of accomplishment. And Chris Haddock, who was a writer-producer, was doing a tour, and he came in to say hi, because he was shooting on another floor of the post office where we were, and he saw my stacks of scripts, and one of them was white, and he looked at me and he said, "Did you shot a production draft?" And I said, "Look closer," and he went, "Double white." Once you've done enough drafts of a script, you have to go through it again. So it goes from double white, double pink, double blue, and then once I was completely, I don't even know why I'm telling the story, other than the fact that it's kind of funny. I got sent a spec script, meaning the person was just writing a script that they thought, would be a good. It was supposedly the wrong pilot, but it was all in different colors. And I said, what the hell? And I guess the only thing I can think of was they had never produced it, but I guess they thought they'd seen a production script and thought that's how you were supposed to do it.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny. Anyway, so
well, no,
you go
I think
through a
that's good.
lot of drafts.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about this, which is, a lot of students, maybe people early in their career, it's always annoying. They get really frustrated if, their teacher, or they find a typo, or, like, you're finished, but you're never finished, and you're never finished, you're never finished, you're never finished. And I mean, I even remember the essay that you were writing for us, and it was like, before upload, it's like, oh, hold on, let's change one more thing. Oh, what do you think about this thing? Okay, let's go back and add this thing. And it's like, until you hit upload, and even like after you hit upload, you can kind of technically make a small change here or there, um, and it can get frustrating, I guess. How do you build that kind of, I don't know, perseverance, determination? Did you always have that, or it was something that's learned, or you saw someone else,
You kind of have to, somebody who's a screenwriter, you kind of have to tear the script from their hands, because I could, if I went back to any script that I've already shot, I probably would make changes at this point.
Yeah.
It's
hence
just
Children of the Gods, the director's
yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
I
remake
wish I
this
had
whole
more
show.
money. I would have changed a lot more. That tease drives me nuts. But it's just you could always be better. And I have this nasty habit. My very first producer, Mary Kahn, used to say, "Flick the devil off your shoulder," and by that she meant stop trying to be clever. And because I would try to put little funny things like dialogue, and it's just not necessary like 90% of the time. For everything to be humorous, or for everything to be quippy or clever, just tell the story. And I find myself, and it's in continuum, left all over the place, because I guess I was left alone. I didn't get enough notes. I didn't get the devil flicked off my shoulder enough.
Is part of the reason why, because the actors also, have a huge impact on that, or is it just because you're going to write forever, and almost like
It
overblow the
depends. I
script?
mean, rarely does an actor come in and go, "What the hell is this?"
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's not entirely fair. Sometimes, for production reasons, because it's taken, because I haven't done a pass yet, somebody will read a script and go, "This isn't my character," and I'll go, "Yeah, I haven't done my pass yet. Give me give me the weekend."
Yeah.
Because character voice and specific things about character generally come through the showrunner when they're doing a script. Now, the difference is, with Stargate, we were all showrunners and everybody was writing the same characters. I didn't have to do a pass on Roberts or Paul's and Joe's, certainly, and Carl's, certainly not. Eventually, at the beginning, of course, you just have to. But I can't think of many actors who, the most respectful actors, I should say this generally, are generally the ones who could get away with the most. Like Robert Carlyle was incredibly respectful of the written word, and when he wanted to make a change, it was, of course, I should have thought of that. Or Bill Bridges, in every script that I wrote that his character was in on Stargate, would come in and we would go through the script together, and he would say, "I just want to change this little thing," and I would go, "Bo, please, you don't even have to ask me." But he respected the process, and so he did ask me, and so I did make the change, so that when he learned it letter perfect, it was him being professional, and I just love that. And you can just tell the kind of actor who is like that by their nature. And there are actors who, think they just have to memorize the gist of the line. And especially when they're young, I have to take them aside and say, no, that's not the line. And here's why the written line here is a better line.
Mhm.
And maybe it's a learning moment for them. I'll give you a small example. An actor in Continuum, great actor, terrific guy. I had written the line, "Good luck with that," and he changed it to, "I'd like to see you try."
Mhm.
Perfectly fine line that means almost the same thing, but "good luck with that" to me has more. It has plosives in the word "good luck with that." It's stronger than "I'd like to see you try." It's just a weaker line in my mind, and of course, my performance of it just now made it obviously that way.
That's how I want you to perform it. Yeah.
"Good luck with that" is a stronger line. If and it's a genuine, to me. There's sort of more of an implied threat, and he completely got it, completely respected it and understood it. Sometimes it just takes learning that, and you think, "Oh, I only have one line in this whole scene." Yeah, I got it, but he turned it into something else.
Yeah. You know what? That's a pretty interesting analogy back to the original question of drawing within the lines. In this case, speaking the lines. It's easy, I think, to want to change something, but like you said, you already had 47 drafts of version 1, and then you had 12 more drafts of feedback and over, or 25 drafts, and these words are crafted, of hundreds
Well,
of
quite
hours of
often,
time.
though, to be fair,
Yeah.
an actor will come in and say, "The network may just put this in the script, didn't they?" And I go, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And they knew it because what happens is when a network reads a script, they forget sometimes, depending on the person. I've had my Netflix experience; they were very, very strong and understanding that you got to give the actor the opportunity to complete the intention of the line. So if you put it all on the page, they may as well just say it. They don't have to perform it. You know what I mean? There's so much more that can be done with fewer words with a good actor.
Yeah, I think my point kind of was, you got these lines, and I'm not saying you have to say them, but once you kind of, I guess, respect the lines and where they are, now all of a sudden the talent, now all of a sudden, now that you know the rules, you can start to play and bend and go beyond the canvas, I suppose. Those kind of things.
Exactly. And any actor who came to my office with questions about scenes or what they were doing in the scene or why they were doing it, I remember once, especially, I think it was early, and Michael Shanks came in, and I said, "No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I no, you're. I was. That's. I guess." And he said, "Oh." I said, "I'm not that good. Trust me. Trust the process of coming in, and I will. And if you point out something that is clearly wrong, the written word is has importance, but if you're right, then I will change it. I promise. If I can tell you why you're wrong, then you should just And sometimes it's I know, but I need this for next episode. I need that thing to be introduced. If you want to help me come up with a better way of doing it, that'll be great. And sometimes that's how it works.
Well, so if I can ask a question, I guess it's tangentially related to this, which is, as a showrunner, you're writing the show, or you're establishing the voice, you're the champion of the characters of the voices. And I just wanted to kind of get into, I think what it is, it's people maybe have this idea of like, I want to be a screenwriter, and then I want to be a showrunner. And I think they probably think about it as like, I have this cool vision in my head, and then other people, like, once I write it, other people can go make it for me. And it's, I think, I mean, not only is it the hardest job, it's ego management. It's constant, potentially, like, conflict resolution, budgetary resolution, studio notes, politics, both upwards and downwards. I guess like I don't know if you can describe, sort of the difference, that leap from being a writer or lead writer, and then actually, now you're the showrunner, and actually how the job changes.
Well, the writing part is the easy part.
Right, right. That's what
The
I mean.
fun
That's the
part. I
fun
mean,
part, and we all established that. Yeah.
and the rest of it is sometimes dealing with egos, and including your own, by the way. And yeah, you kind of just nailed it. I don't even need to put it any other way other than the writing part is the easy part, and the writer's room is the safest place, because I can't tell you how many times I wrote something that I thought it doesn't even have to be mine. We delivered a script from one of my team, and I would get notes from the network that really, I dug in my heels. I would dig in my heels and get kind of like, no. And I have to admit, that's when my own ego got in my way, because I would sometimes defend my people to a fault, even when they may have had a point. Rarely, and this is another thing, quite often a studio note or a network note identifies a problem, but their solution to that problem is wrong. And I would go, well, let me sit with this, and it would frustrate people left and right. I'd go, okay, I hear you, and their mind, what they were hearing was, he's not going to do anything. But what I was saying was, in response, let me come up with the solution to what I believe is your problem. Your solution doesn't work for me, but maybe I can come up with a solution that works for you and me, and solves the problem. And generally speaking, well, hopefully I got that right more often than not. But when somebody can identify a problem but gives you the wrong solution, I feel like it's my job to fight that.
Mm-hmm.
It's my job to stand up for the show, because I can tell. Yeah. I've seen my earlier work, like there are episodes of The Outer Limits where there are lines of dialogue and scenes that I go, oh my God, I wrote that? And it's because I was doing a network note.
Yeah.
Or not, our studio note. And it was like, why didn't I dig in my heels more?
At what point do you develop that kind of confidence? I mean, I'm assuming the younger someone is in their career, and they get maybe promoted recently, or they get their first show, you bend to the studio a lot more. Was there a moment, was it a gradual thing where all of a sudden you found yourself being able to push back on the studio, or say, look, I appreciate your problem is correct, your answer isn't correct, let me go figure that out?
I don't know.
I just I'm born with it,
yeah, maybe it just comes from being an obnoxious little shit.
Trying to give some tools, trying to help tools for the fans here, to develop some confidence here.
Okay, well, you have to have a certain amount of ego and belief in yourself to do the job, that you think you're right. If you're so wrong that, and this happens equally as much, don't get me wrong, but when they point out something, when somebody points out, it doesn't matter what it is, and you go, oh shit, you're right, oh my God, I have to fix that. Just admit it and fix it. I mean, sometimes it's an enormous amount of work.
Yeah.
Like Rob Cooper was very good at identifying something that I had really, if I had done something, especially if it's big character stuff that he felt ownership with too. I did something with Rush in SGU that made Rush, it kind of, like Bobby was fine with it. Robert Carlyle was fine with the way it was written, but Rob said, I think you're really diminishing the character by doing this. And I disagreed with him. And then I went home and I thought of it. And then when I came home, by morning, I agreed with him. It took overnight for me to see it for what it was instead of just truculence on my part, you know.
Yeah.
And so I fixed it. It was a lot of work, and even Robert Carlyle went, I was fine the other way, but okay, this is fine too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your own work. You just have to. And you can destroy something by doing what everybody says. Because you get no. I mean, not all notes you get are the same note. And as Carrie Mudd would say, if everybody's saying it, Brad, there's a pretty good chance they're right. And she's
Yeah.
she's not wrong. But if it's contradictory, then it's a point of view issue, and that's when you kind of have to dig in your heels if you think you're right.
Yeah.
But you know what? Get the job and keep the job is important. There was a point at Stargate where this happens to a lot of people. I mean, I watch movies that by Steven Spielberg. Somebody should have said no to him a couple of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some decisions made that somebody should have said no, or maybe this isn't a good idea. And fortunately, we had some people around who were never shy of telling me when I had done something dumb.
Oh, Brad.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important.
Yeah.
Healthy.
It means you built a very healthy team dynamic, because there's a lot of psychological safety that needs to happen for that to happen. Right?
That's true. That's true. You have to feel safe when you put something out there. And I always had the power to say that's not a good idea, no, or whatever. But if they were right, they were right. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Was that? I mean, speaking of like kind of, I guess, building a really great team, psychological safety. We've heard the cast in the past talk about Stargate being a family. Is that intentional? Is that something that you just organically build over time? I know it's a long time ago. So
toxic atmosphere is no fun for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And competition of egos is no fun for anybody. It's when everybody's working together for the same reasons and toward the same end. It's fun. It's the most fun you can have in this business. And when there's heads butting and egos flashing and I'm not getting my fair share from somebody, and you think, oh, this is the share you should get.
Yeah.
It can get, it's.
I mean, don't name names or anything like that, but I am curious, like when somebody sometimes comes up to you and says, I think I should have more lines, or I should have a more prominent role, or whatever it is, of course, what's kind of going through your mind is different than, I'm assuming, what you say, or maybe not. Like, how do you be able to, I guess, what's your technique in that kind of feedback, yet keeping,
it completely depends on the person. It completely depends on the person. If there have been multiple times when, and it's also youth, sometimes it's youth. I had an actor find out, because they all talked, that they were being paid less than another actor, and it really hurt them. And of course, it's all based on quotes, right? You get paid. Well, your last quote was this, and I'm not going to say, hey, it's not up to me anyway. It's negotiated through casting directors.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And approved by me. But the if I can get an actor and save some money along the way. But this was in season 2, and I went, you're absolutely right. That they deserve more. I mean, I can't argue the whole. In season 1 I could, but in season 2, no, they deserve a bigger raise to have a little more equity. And I know for a fact that without ever having discussed it personally with that person, because it was all through their reps, I know that they appreciated it. And that's fine. That made sense. When an actor who's not a regular but a guest character that's being used a lot overextends their worth.
Expends the artist
I tend
lines.
to replace them. I tend to replace that character with another character in the subsequent episode
Yeah.
doing that role, be it a
Yeah.
scientist or
Right. You
whatever.
send the other person to space. You're going on another
Well,
mission.
I don't kill them. I just do a search and replace for the name and
Yeah.
change the character slightly.
Yeah.
And that role in the script has been accomplished by another person, and in fact helped me increase the population of the base or the whatever it is, the ship. And that person hopefully will have learned their lesson by then, that when you get asked back to do this role, it's because we like you, but you're not a series regular, and that's just all there is to it.
Yeah. Do the team dynamics kind of change season by season, or is it actually usually pretty stable, throughout like a show's run?
It's hard. I mean, sometimes actors are bursting at the seams, especially a young actor who they do a show and they, especially in a 22 episode season, it's a lot of work. And they think they're doing good work. And you know what makes an actor better? Work.
Yeah.
When you are on screen or on set, building a character, developing a character, getting meaty scenes, and you think, God, I'm pretty good now. Oh shit, I have a contract to this show for the next 3 years or for the next year or whatever it is. I'd sure like to go do that. And then they read their fan mail, and then they get their manager saying, I think I can get you an offer on this show. And they're literally bursting at the seams. And sometimes it's hard to tell them, no, you have to do this show. I'm sorry.
Has it gotten actually, interesting about that. Has it gotten worse with social media? Because before you're talking about fan mail, which takes a long time to get to you. Of course, your manager and agents.
I'm really counting fan mail as part of it. I mean, that's
you are counting that. Okay.
term, yeah.
Yeah.
Because social media's been around long enough that it's, I'm not talking about, handwritten notes from.
Okay. No, but I can imagine there's so much adoration. People love you. People fall in love with a character, even if it's a minor character or a side character. And I don't know, it's for an actor.
I have said to young actors this too. I've said this. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Yes, you're getting a lot of great praise for this character. Don't believe all of it. Don't let it go to your head, because you know what? The people who are saying you suck, they're wrong too.
Yes. Yeah.
And there will be. I guarantee you, I can find for any artist, director, writer, actor. Sure, most people look at the praise and ignore the crap, but sometimes you can't take either the good or the bad too seriously, which is, goes back to awards, right? You have to, it's fun.
Those awards are the good ones. You take that in. Yeah, those are the good ones.
What's the line? I can't remember who said it, but I've never taken any awards seriously until this moment, because I won one.
Does it get you the negative words on Twitter? Do you even read them? Do you ignore them? Is there
of course.
Yeah.
IMDb has some wonderful. And I actually posted some on Twitter. One of them was, it was hilarious. I think they must have tried to put 8, and they put 3 out of 10, and then praised the show up and down. And to which I posted that review and wrote, "Oh my God, imagine if they hated it." You just can't. The only thing that matters is, do enough people watch the show to keep it on the air? And one of the advantages of being a cable show over the years with Stargate was that we were never a giant hit, but worldwide 10 million people watched it every week. That's a lot of eyeballs. It was worth it for MGM to keep us on the air.
Yeah,
getting anywhere near those numbers today would be like miraculous. But
Well, there's like hardcore fans that they love Stargate, but they can only complain about it on social media, even to this day. And I was speaking to Tom Hunter, Tom Hunter, who's the director of the Arthur C. Clarke Award, about this recently. I was like, why does this phenomenon exist? We have members who hate us. Like everything they send us is just hate. They're paid members. And I was kind of asking him about this too, and he said, "Oh, you know what? I think it's kind of like a sports team. Like you suck unless if you're not winning the championship. So you bash your team, nonsense. Trade this person. I hate you. You stink. You suck. But if somebody else says that about a team, like, oh no, that's not allowed. We're gonna have to get into a fight now. Like you're so abusive to your own team."
But it can kill. I mean, you especially when like I can. I mean, you're kind of leading to the universe question. Fandom like contributed to the death of Stargate Universe. There's no question. That it wasn't SGA and it wasn't SG1, and so the hate for that show was a contributing factor.
That's like real hate though. Yeah,
unfortunately. That was real hate. That was pretty serious.
Oh man,
I still think it's a good show.
It was a phenomenal show. I thought no disrespect to SG1 or Atlantis in any way, but the sci-fi themes were so strong and so complex and mature. Like when I watched it was incredible. Not saying the other ones weren't, but Universe was a different kind of different kind of sci-fi every single week, different thought. Personally, I didn't know what to expect each time. It was really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, but I guess the whole point is you can't lose your fandom entirely like we did. Not entirely, I'm sure there's fans, but we kind of took them for granted.
Right.
I don't even think I would have done anything differently. I might have not been so antagonistic with them in the moment. Like I got into a fight with a critic. That was a mistake. That was dumb. Maureen, if you're out there, if you ever see this, sorry, you were right. Social media does change that, and it does change the way people perceive things because it's so immediate. It's so a show. Except it was funny with Travelers. I was used to Stargate responses, out on Gate World or any, there would be like dozens and dozens of when Stargate aired first in Canada, just on Showcase, there would be like 2 or 3 comments because not that many people are avidly, reviewing shows on social media. In terms of the general population. And so we were like looking for this response after it aired Canada first, and it was like crickets for a while, and it was a little disheartening. We were like, is anybody watching the show? And then Showcase said, the numbers are great. The numbers are great. We're very happy. And then of course that went on Netflix, and there's a lot more to respond to. And some people just don't get it. I can't get down on the show or on myself when I think that the person posting it just didn't get it, and there's almost always a clue that they're dumb in their criticism, like they get the your thing wrong or something. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, well, you want to respond. Well, a lot of people aren't smart enough to understand this show. Don't feel too bad. And that would be a horrible thing to do, and I would get jumped on justifiably for that. So
I've had this problem before where someone criticizes us or whatever it is that we do, and I'm responding. I'm like, all right, I don't respond often. I'm going to respond. And then halfway through the response, because I'm trying to think through what they're criticizing, I started realizing, wait, this doesn't make sense. How do I then respond, even attack them properly back? And then I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out what they're actually attacking me. I'm like, oh, I don't even know what they're saying. I'm just going to delete the whole thing. And it was such a waste.
You can go and check this, and it made me laugh out loud when I realized what it was. Probably the majority of 1-star reviews of Travelers on Google are for the insurance company.
Right, yeah.
Travelers. And so you know what, I'm not going to take blame for that one. I
Yeah,
do
I
wish
get
they
it
were
though. You're looking
excised
for
from
something
the.
else. We didn't deliver. Yeah,
You wanted insurance. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I can't help you
yeah.
there. Or there's the most reviled and most loved episode of Travelers is episode 7 of season 2, in which uh, involves skydiving,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Awesome.
it repeats and the review is the most common review on the negative side is, this writer's an idiot, didn't understand the rules at all. Well, I was the writer and I came up with the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I understand them, and I don't think you understand what, because the show was trying to define exactly how specific the rules were.
Right.
They didn't get it, but
I mean, they didn't know you're a real big stickler for the rules. We know that.
that's
Yeah, we
true.
know that.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, speaking
And
of that,
okay.
actually on that, so um when fans watch shows, I'm sure they watch it very differently from us. They are able to take out so many lessons. It could be something on PTSD or grief or parental relationships. And I'm kind of wondering, when have you ever heard of, I guess, like reviews or responses, not necessarily negative, just responses maybe that you didn't even think of, or do you actually think about all these things when you're writing the script and it's much more intentional? Do you kind of know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. We
Yeah, yeah.
we we try to write with theme, and if it's there, it's because we were, I like to think that a good writing is
Mhm.
imbued with the sensibilities of the person doing the writing and doing the directing and doing the performing. It's a shared sense of sensibilities that the work is imbued with. Um, that's why I think there is a sort of Canadian approach to some things like comedy,
Yeah.
and there was a shared sense of theme and ideology in some ways in through Stargate and Travelers. It's going to be imbued with the themes of the people who create them. But if it's overt, if it's too overt, it's it's on the nose. We call that on the nose and heavy-handed, and you don't want to be too much of that. And I'm definitely guilty of that. In an episode of Stargate called "The Other Side," where yeah, pretty obvious, but it's still a pretty good episode. But it was a little heavy-handed.
Is there
Uh,
has there ever been a time where you didn't think there was gonna be so much reaction or different reaction to it? What was the biggest difference where you thought you were writing one thing and fans have taken something else, even positively, completely out, differently?
we did an episode of SGU in which I just thought it was an interesting creative thing to have, because the communication stones enable you to inhabit
Yeah,
the
like
body
talk
of
back to Earth,
another
yeah,
person.
you're yeah.
And so we had a character who was a paraplegic
Mhm, mhm.
with the stones, and that was an interesting sci-fi uh, thing, and I think the script reflected. Uh, and it was maybe a little too on the nose what that was, and but worse than that, the way casting framed it was uh, just in their breakdown, and it wasn't even their fault. It was just too. It was just too. It broke it down instead of it being nuanced. It just took it into the black and white. A disabled person gets to be an able-bodied or fully
Right.
able-bodied person. Um, uh, and the way it was framed was kind of ugly, and it made all of us, including me, but definitely the network, go, hell, hold on, this can't be the theme. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this is wrong. We're basically saying that one kind of person is better than another, and we didn't. So we still told the story, but in a much more nuanced way, and
Yeah,
as
yeah.
much as we could at least. And but I didn't. I never thought of it in the black and white way that it went out in the breakdown when we did it, but that exposed it for what it was.
Right.
And we recognized that. We did another one, didn't see coming, and we shot it. And that was an SG Atlantis episode played by Richard Kind. And it was about a guy. I thought it was hilarious, but about a guy who develops or finds a spice that makes you irresistible. That's the title.
Yeah.
But I didn't see and that really what it was doing. It was like a date rape drug.
Right. Yeah.
He could make anyone do anything he wanted, and we kind of insinuated that he did.
Yeah.
And we went, oh shit. Oh well, we made the episode. That's not going to stand up well in the future.
Yeah.
Because we played it comedically, and it was never it was never, really heinous. I think we squeaked through, but it was never intentional. It was never. We never went there. We just never considered. Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah,
that's not cool.
No.
But I don't think that either one of those episodes would get made today. I think somebody would have flagged them much sooner. And
yeah.
Probably for good reason. Now that I think of it, my kids are so much more aware as people in their 30s of that changing world, and keep I try to keep up with it, of course, myself. You don't want to be the dinosaur shouting at clouds as grandpa, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Kind of going back to originally I was just kind of saying, it was interesting that you mentioned two things, which was like we talked about the end, where you have to keep writing and rewriting. On the other side, I get it. You have to just start writing. Sometimes people need a almost like a kick in the butt. I had actually said, I don't know if writer's block exists. I mean, I get it's a concept, but it's kind of a relatively new concept. No one has talker's block. So if you really have a hard time writing, just start talking or recording yourself with like a text to speech, and then you'll have your first draft already. And
that's true. That's funny.
Yeah.
For me, and I have it now. I have it now. I have a series concept that has a terrific hook and it has a terrific premise, and I'm struggling to find because it could go in so many different directions. I could do this, or I could go with that, and I'm struggling to decide which direction I take it.
It's actually really refreshing to hear you say that. I think hopefully that's refreshing for members and fans.
Rarely do you get an idea all at once. It's happened to me, and it's been wonderful when that's happened. That you go, oh yeah, and then this, and then that would end like this. Boom. That's for an episode, but for a whole series, you're trying to come up with not just the characters and the opening challenges in the pilot, but where does it go in season 2? What is what is this building toward? And I run the risk of maybe because I did the Outer Limits of writing an episode that would be a great Outer Limits, a pilot that would be a great Outer Limits episode. And sure, you could see where it could go after that, but is it going to go multiple seasons?
Right. Just to clarify for everyone, Outer Limits obviously being an anthology, they're like basically 1 hour films, and so you've got a really great premise for a 1 hour film, but is that a 10-hour story or a 20?
I've gotten some feedback on series that I pitched with Carrie Mudd. This is great, but it feels like a Black Mirror episode.
Right.
Which, okay, I did talk to you about elements of season 2, but if they don't see it themselves, it's very difficult to convince them otherwise. I said when I sold Travelers, I said to the executive, I said, well, you have you have a tendency to keep shows on the air for a while, and I have a tendency of keeping shows on the air for a while. I mean, Stargate went hundreds of hours, so
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to do this in terms of coming up with a new story. And the other thing that it's hard to trust. It's hard for a buyer to trust that you will come up with mythology that will lead to more story.
Right.
It's just because you haven't done it yet. They want it all at once. And
Mhm.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Do you think it's because they're a buyer and not a writer, and or is it like a working relationship kind of thing? Is it a trust thing? Is it an experience difference?
In the past, it was definitely a trust thing on my part
Right.
because MGM would say, what do you want to, what's this next Stargate? What's the next thing you want
Right.
to do?
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
Stargate, just to
Yeah.
make sure it's Stargate. Stargate. And I would come in and I would pitch something else, and they'd look at me like I had two heads, and they'd say, okay, but seriously, Stargate.
That's a good
That's fair.
idea. How do you turn it back into Star? This is Star. There's a
Yeah,
9th chevron, the 10th chevron, right? You just keep.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just keep adding chevrons. Um,
Okay.
in the yeah, the mythology, you build on your own mythology, and but you have to be able to be in production in order to do that.
Yeah.
So I can't say, oh, trust me, to people who have never worked with me before, or because
Yeah. Yeah.
because of my track record. Nobody does that anymore,
Yeah.
or at least not doing it with me.
Yeah. You were speaking about in your mind, sometimes you'll come up with an idea and you don't know which direction to go. I forgot to make a card, like a question card. So apologies, but Gabriella had sent in a question that was actually around that, which is sometimes I have a story or scene clearly visualized in my mind, but I don't know how to begin to write the story. Do you have any advice on how to translate what's in my mind onto paper? And I think what Gabby is also asking, or at least I hope what she's also asking, is like sometimes you come up with a scene that's so vivid in your mind, right? Like you could feel like the wind or the winter wind on your face or the soundtrack, and there's these emotions and there's so much kind of going on. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's the difference between a novel and a screenplay almost, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is, and it's a very interesting. I remember Hart Hansen asked me to speak very long time ago
Mhm.
at University of British Columbia. He said, I saw on what's up screenwriting subject, and I chose time and space. And he knew, because this was a 101 screenwriting course, he knew it was going to flummox his students, but because it is a fairly sophisticated thing. The difference between a screenplay and a novel is that your scene plays out in real time,
Mhm.
and it has to convey information about character and story in the amount of time it takes on screen. That's the time you have it, because we perceive time
Yeah, real
in real
time.
time, and so
Yeah.
you can't write this incredible long scene, winter scene, if it's a winter scene,
Yeah, yeah.
that isn't either moving story or developing character or both. And that's the skill of a screenwriter,
Mhm.
to put those things into context of pages that uh, that don't just describe an image of what a scene looks or feels like, but move story along. Because other than that, you're talking about a shot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
shot something has to happen within that frame for an audience to keep watching. Otherwise, click. I
Yeah.
hosted a movie once, and it was interesting. It was a sci-fi movie, and it was pretty good. And I was watching it, and there were scenes within the movie that were so slow paced that at one point there was a freeze frame,
Mhm.
and
Right.
I didn't know it was part of. It wasn't a freeze frame. The screen froze.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know
It
what you
didn't
mean.
play. It was the playback had stopped, and I just kept watching, and I kept watching, and I kept watching.
You're like, "Oh, wait, someone hit pause. Hold on." Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And actually, it wasn't even paused. The something happened with my system. I had to reboot it. It had stuck on a
Yeah.
frame, and there was long side. My point is, stuff has to happen in the
Yeah.
scene, and that is uh, a question of awareness of time and space. Sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes you have way too much stuff happening on the page that you couldn't portray on the screen.
Mm-hmm. So in that instance, how do you reduce it?
You have to come up with a series of shots or a sequence that distills it into the core of what you're trying to communicate. Best example I can think of, and I knew this because my friend Carl Binder was working at Disney when they did. Remember the movie Up?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, best opening montage in the history of montages. That first sequence was apparently 4 times longer.
Right.
When they did it, and it was apparently pretty good. And they showed it for their bosses, and the guy went, cut it in half. And they went, oh, how are we going to possibly cut it in half? And they did it, and they showed it, and they were pretty sure this is pretty good. This is it. This is great. This is going to be good. They're going to love this. He said, cut it in half again.
Yeah.
And they thought they wanted. Basically, they were ready to quit because they thought they'd done something so amazing. And I may be embellishing this story. I don't know if it's true.
We love the embellishment.
But the point is they cut it to the point where they didn't think they could cut it anymore. And it's one of the best sequences relating so much emotion and information and character. Almost a lifetime in a short montage. And I'm not saying you can do that with everything, but I'm saying it's an example of how time and space and character and story are revealed through time and space on screen, and that can be done at a breakneck pace of a million things happening, like the opening scene of Indiana Jones, where it's just action, 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 or it could take place so slowly that you barely know anything's happening, but it's unpacking so slowly, but it's interesting enough, intriguing enough visually or through whatever the character's experiencing to make you continue to watch it, to keep you riveted to the screen. And that is the difference between a screenwriter and a novelist, because a novelist can create in the span of a page, describe events in a completely different way than you can on screen.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. One of the guys in my building, my neighbor, I'm forgetting his name, so it's a crappy story now. Nigel. He's a very prominent theater director in London, and he recently had a show, and he was getting really nervous because he could feel when the performance is 1 minute behind schedule, and he's like, "No, that's like a lot of time behind schedule." And I was like asking, a minute, really? Like over like a 3-hour like play? And he's like, yeah, no, people start falling asleep. People feel it. People feel the drug. Like it's wild. He had to go in the next day, and they had to go and rehearse it again, cut the time. We're talking about 1 minute out of a 3-hour kind of thing. And I think it was eventually nominated for an Olivier, et cetera. And that's the detail. Yeah, that's the detail, that pacing that you could feel.
And it happens in editing too, significantly. Like you'll see a scene, and the editor will have put together the scene, and it's good. It's good. And this is a theater term that I don't even know if it's, but I've introduced it into our editing rooms. I don't even know if people other than me use it, but the word is cue bite. It's when my high school director, who I'm still friends with, taught me this term, and it's when you're literally biting the next cue. It's like literally on top of each other, and sometimes with a significant amount of overlap.
Yeah.
And editorially, it's very different because you have to make it so you can create, especially if it's 2 separate close-ups, you can create people talking over each other, and that can imbue energy into a scene that just was never even there on the stage, because actors learn not to overlap each other, because it's a nightmare for sound, and they know they have to go into ADR because there was a piece of overlap on their sound on their close-up, and it's like, oh shit, I have to re-record it. So but you can create that kind of energy on
in
editing. But the other thing that I don't know if it's a rule, but I've always said it's very difficult to cut faster than the internal rhythm of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you can't have two characters who are talking to each other quite slowly and quite calmly suddenly start overlapping each other, because the energy doesn't match. The internal rhythm of the actual scene performed doesn't match the energy that you're trying to impose.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you when you're writing and you're first coming up with an idea or story, does music come to mind, or is it always story
Yes,
first? Yeah.
yes, yes. In fact, I learned a long time ago, Joel Goldsmith, who was a genius,
Mm-hmm.
uh, at the beginning of music spotting, I learned not to even bother doing music spotting with him because he was so much smarter than me. But I would listen. I could hear the nature of the cue. I listen to the nature of the cue in my head as I'm writing. I don't mean the music itself, but the energy the cue is going to have.
Yeah.
And so much so that I started writing to soundtrack. I've always written to soundtrack and tried to choose music soundtracks that were of the flavor of
You
that I
mean
was writing.
if you were writing something grand, you might listen to a movie soundtrack or something like
Yeah,
that.
big,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
actiony thing. Yeah, absolutely. And so Adam Latuska, who was another genius who did the music for Travelers, Lastuka, uh, he did like hours of music just having read the scripts and just trying to come up with themes for characters. That's how good he was.
Mm.
And I would be listening to it, and I kind of want to give him credit for a lot of the scenes that I wrote, simply because I was listening to his music and it was putting me in exactly the headspace I needed.
Right.
So that when he put the music on, it would be astounding how many times I would be, yes, just like that. That's what I was listening to.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
When I wrote that scene, and so we were very in sync in that respect.
Oh, very cool.
And his music was so good that it was never a chore to listen to his cues, as wild as they sometimes were, as I was writing. It was fun.
Yeah. Do you have time for kind of one more question?
Sure, sure, sure,
We're a
sure.
little long, but
That's all right.
appreciate it.
I don't feel like we've stuck to the theme very well.
No, I was gonna pull us back to. I wanted to ask
Okay,
you
good, because
about
you need
recharging
to be
your
able to put
creative
something.
battery here.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is, the reality, I guess, of burnout. Have you ever experienced it yourself, or someone on your team? And how did you kind of deal with it?
Yeah, I if there's joy in the work, it's easier to put up with it. I remember our script supervisor. I remember overhearing our script supervisor near the end of season 2 whispering to somebody out of genuine concern, "God, Brad looks tired."
Yeah, yeah,
And I was exhausted, but it was a good tired. And that,
yeah.
you know what I mean? There's
Yes, yes.
there's a tired that comes from sense of a job well done. I'm just tired because I used to say to my family, I'm not a workaholic. I just have a lot of shit to do.
Yeah,
And I do it. You have to do the work in front of you, because not doing it causes even more stress. So if you chip away at the mountain, it'll get small eventually. The other thing is,
sorry, can I actually ask before that,
sure.
which is because you were you were a very young showrunner with Stargate, and then even
Yeah.
before that, you were
Yeah,
making these movies, these outer
sort of
limit
running.
movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess my question is sort of, at what point in your career, when you made like one leap or one jump, like, whoa, this is different and it's a lot harder than I thought. Kind of like what you were just saying with, yes, I'm tired, but sometimes it's a good tired. Um, like
Did I
almost like
ever
what,
feel over my head? Yeah.
yeah, or like what was the biggest jump really, I guess, in it? Is it like from an internship to like an actual like, whoa, this is how writing works? Or is it actually from that producer to executive producer level? Yeah.
I just got thrown into the writing by working for a very kind man on
Mm,
a Canadian show who nicely taught me everything he knew without knowing that I was probably going to take his place, and didn't mind because he didn't want to live in Canada anyway.
right.
But on the Outer Limits, when I was producing an episode, I had a series of terrific experiences on set, and but with the Outer Limits, you had to finish your episode, right? You couldn't. There was no, we'll pick that up next week. You had to finish, and we tried not to do overtime because the budgets were so tight. But on the Light Brigade, I was on set for trying to produce my episode a lot, helping the director as much as I could with a very difficult schedule. And going into overtime on the last night and knowing I was spending money hand over fist, but also knowing we needed the shots, and choosing with the director, okay, well, we can do this in one, we can do this in one, and this, and then saving some of this hardest stuff to the end, and realizing I've got Will Wheaton on a, in flying gear, upside down, going down a sono tube, and it's we're into our second hour of overtime, and going, this isn't fun. This isn't fun at all. I'm not having any fun. When that happens, it's over a little bit overwhelming, and saying the producer saying, well, I don't approve this, so if you keep shooting, it's on you, and saying, okay, it's on me.
Right.
I mean, I was 34.
Yeah.
and I, the last show I'd written was, about a horse, and Mickey Rooney was in it. I mean, there was not flying people in a giant set, spaceship set. It was very stressful, and doing stunts that are, this guy could get hurt. Oh yeah, he really could. Why are we doing this? Why did I agree to this? All of those things accumulate, but time passes, and you survive the first time, and you go, oh, okay, I guess I can do this.
Gets a little easier.
A little bit of I guess early on you struggle with imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not. Why are they giving me the keys to this? I don't know how to drive this. Yeah. And then you drive it, and I guess I'm doing it okay.
At what point did you, or have you always been able to, give very clear direction, I guess, and make those kind of decisions? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I haven't always. I've screwed up a couple of times, and I remember Brad Turner, great director. So I remember being so concerned about the budget because the numbers were so big, and saying, you don't. I remember saying, no, let's cut that. You don't need the wet down. A wet down is when you literally use a water truck to spray the road and the area so that it reflects the lights, so you get this cool night shot instead of this dead.
Yeah.
Which
pixelated.
Is what we ended up with, because I killed the and I remember saying to him afterwards, I said, I will never make that mistake again. I to save $500, I ruined the opening shot.
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, you did. You did. And so you have to learn. Some of these things are so stupidly expensive, but they come with a value that, and you just have to embrace it. You have to realize, okay, that's $100,000 sequence in that visual effects shot. Oh my God, is it going to be worth it? Well, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of decisions you're making at that level, and that's stressful when you're, in your 30s and have never done it before.
Yeah.
The other thing I learned in terms of maintaining my own mental health was, and I don't know, I've been trying to think of other people who have done this in the way I did it. And that was to step aside and let people do their thing. And like I promised Rob he would run the show. So I kept that promise. And I said, okay, I'm not gonna leave your side. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come in a lot, and I'm gonna help whenever you need my help. And I'm gonna spend the summer at the cottage with my kids and my family, because I really desperately need to not be working as hard as I'm working for myself, and so that I, reestablish my connections to my family. And so I did it. And I did it in a way that was open enough. And not only am I surprised but grateful that they let me back in. I mean, they probably could have said,
We got it.
you
Yeah.
got it. Stars
Yeah.
now. Thank you. Bye-bye. They could have. But I didn't go away. And I guess it was because I stayed helpful and I stayed positive and I continued. And I didn't even I had to bite my lip a few times. I never would have made a couple of the episodes they made without me, but that was their prerogative because I had handed over the keys. It's their turn to drive, and I guess they were experiencing some of the same abject terror as I just described.
Yeah, yeah. Will Win upside down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And 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 I did come back, and we worked together again. And then again for Atlantis with Paul and Joe. They deserved their shot in seasons 4 and 5 to run the show without either Rob or I watching over their shoulders. But we came back and we contributed and we did stuff but had I not done that, I would have started resenting. I could have ended up being the toxic person that all these years I've been trying to avoid, and that would have just been horrible.
So it sounds like you weren't burnt out yet, but you were able to identify
it coming.
Yeah, you saw it coming. Yeah.
And I was on the edge of it a couple of times. I mean, I remember Rob. We were doing 2 shows at once, and Paul said in a meeting, "No, our next one should be in Atlantis." And Rob, why?
Yeah.
And Paul said, "Because if we don't, then Brad might die." I guess it was showing,
Yeah.
I've had conflict sometimes with staff or with cast that literally showed up on my face as eruptions or
Right.
I would get a rash from anxiety, and that's a tell. I mean, that's real. And that's the struggle. When I knew in the second half of SGU, there was a perfect storm happening. The show was going to have to be decided. Its pickup was going to have to be decided right at the time when MGM was essentially going away.
Yeah.
And it was impossible not to see it coming, and yet fighting for the show, still working really, really hard to make the show as good as it could be, in the hope that, we'll just make a show so good that they can't say no to it.
Yeah.
And it went away anyway.
And was your mentality, I'm guessing, like, I mean, you're the leader, right? You got to show up with a smiley face every day when chaos, the studio, the cancellation, all of it.
And you don't tell people, "Oh yeah, you don't tell people that." You struggle to, keep a good attitude and continue to make the jokes that you've made for the last 14 years in meetings, probably not too many times for some people's days. I had a shtick that I went through, and then I guess I just started going through it again. But the stress of it can get to you, and it's important to try to see it coming. You're right. That is what it is. It was like maintaining sanity by going, hey, you know what? I haven't hit the wall yet, but we're going in a very fast moving car, and I think I better put on the brakes personally here. And it worked for everybody. It worked for my family. It worked for everybody who stepped up. Everybody got that opportunity. I still kept my hand in with the bullshitty part in terms of the fighting, because I said, I'll be the bad guy. I would say that sometimes.
And that's when you would go away for long periods of time, like to the cottage or holidays and that kind of thing.
I mean, it would be like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
but I would also sometimes just come in the morning, and then say, I'm not coming, Friday, I'm going golfing. And they would go fine. I mean, they didn't need me. They certainly didn't need me, but I would come in and I would produce an episode or 2 or 3 and help in the writer's room and help in editing when there was a question. Definitely help with the budget sometimes. I'm sure in retrospect they would think, oh God, we didn't need him, but I don't think they objected to it too much.
Yeah.
If they did, they didn't show it, which good on them, because I come through with a promise too, right? They got the keys.
And you mentioned golf. Is that one thing that is like the mental health, like short-term mental health, a day of golf or something
100%.
like that? Yeah.
100%. It's I started golfing when I was they don't have freelancing anymore. It's a shame. I wish they did. I could write a script of this or that. I killed to do a Black Mirror or a Star Trek, but they just don't do that anymore. But I was freelancing on a couple of shows, and you're given X amount of time to write it, and it was a really dumb show, and I won't say what it was, but I didn't know what to do with the set of notes, and I had to do them because it's not like I was in any position to fight against them. And I said to my wife, I'm going to go with, I had taken an old set of golf clubs back, we moved with them, and I just went to a par 3 and I said, I'm just going to think about this script while I'm doing it. And then I went and I was hitting the ball and I realized I couldn't think about my story at all while I was doing it. And then I realized that is way better.
Yeah.
Because when you're a showrunner or a writer working on anything, you're thinking about your show at dinner and your wife is looking at you going, could you come back? Because I can tell you're not really here. And say, right, sorry, you're in the shower, you're thinking of it. If you're playing golf and you're doing it right, you're not thinking of anything other than hitting the ball.
Yeah.
Your next shot. And there's a zen to it, to borrow a word that probably doesn't belong, but there's a zen to it that I think is I think healthy for me. And just a round of golf, even if I was playing with the same people I was working with every day, like Robin, Paul, and I, and sometimes Mark and sometimes James, all of whom I worked with all the time. We just didn't talk about work, and we just, it was just 4.5 hours, and it was incredibly healthy.
Is it about
crap conditions too? Just because I'm playing golf, I don't care if it's raining.
Yeah. This is for my mental health. We're staying out here, exactly. Even though it's freezing.
My father-in-law, before he passed, in his 70s, would sometimes join us if we needed a fourth, and it, like on a cold November morning, go, "What the hell are we doing here?" Now I'm approaching the age he was when he was doing that, and I get it. I'm much more of a fair weather golfer now, but I have the time. So,
is golf for you the switch off, or is golf actually a switch off that actually helps you generate creative ideas later?
It's a switch off because when by turning it off, by not thinking of something for a period of time, any period of time, when you start thinking about it again, it's like with fresh eyes or a fresh brain. And that's very helpful.
Yeah.
That's why people wake up with an idea.
Yeah.
Because they weren't thinking about it. And, that's why you get an idea in the middle of the night while you're going to the washroom because you weren't thinking of it. And that's incredibly helpful. That's why when I go on vacation, I can't golf every day. I'm too old and my body won't let me do it. So I'll sit on the beach or by the pool with a book. I'll put the book down and I'll go, and I'll get an idea because I'm not thinking of something. I'm not trying to think of something. Letting yourself go, letting the thing go that you're fighting with, and then allowing yourself to revisit it with fresher eyes and a clearer mind is very healthy.
Yeah, and that's is that usually like when you're coming up with like a brand new idea, whether it's a show, it could be an episode, something like that. Is that part of the process? Is it intentional, the process? Yeah. No,
I just learned to give myself a break every once in a while, just because even if I don't get an idea out of it, I still needed the break. You know what I mean? Just because I didn't come up with a great series idea doesn't mean it's not a good idea to sit by the pool with a book once in a while.
Yeah. So what is like a morning or what does a day look like then when you are actively trying to write or come up with ideas? What is there a ritual or a habit or anything that you do?
Coffee,
Yeah.
internet. I probably lose, and I bet every writer in the world loses an hour a day to uh, Twitter or
Yeah, IMDb
Instagram or
3 out of 10
IMDb.
yeah, scores.
Then you check the weather. Then you go, oh, am I going to be able to play golf on Saturday? Oh shit, it's going to rain. And then you turn off your internet or whatever, and you start typing and promise yourself you're not going to go back at it for a while. I tried not to do that, but it's just stupid. You got to just give yourself that half an hour and look at it.
Yeah.
You're going to email. When you're running a show, you get 50 emails a day, and so you have to respond because people are waiting on you, right?
Mm.
And then you're not doing a show, and then you're looking at your phone just as much as you did before, but instead you're going, no, Staples is having a sale because that's all you're getting. You know, you're not actually getting those important emails anymore. And the pace is less. I'll write for a couple of hours, and my wife will attest that quite often I'll start typing the most furiously around 3:30 in the afternoon, just when I have to start thinking about dinner.
Yeah. Everyone loves a deadline.
Yeah, I guess that must be, maybe that's when my brain is freshest.
Yeah.
And then the other morning, Saturday morning, I woke up with an idea. That's one of those ideas I got all at once. It wasn't a particularly good idea. I wrote it down anyway. And I just typed until it was out. It took me a few hours.
Yeah.
Finished it. Looked at it, went, no, you're right. It wasn't a particularly good idea, but I did it. And I think if you don't, like back to what I started with, if you don't start, and if you don't finish, you'll never know.
This actually very relevant. So Rebecca, can you pull up your own question, Rebecca? Rebecca's got a question, which is, as you know, Rebecca is working on a feature film and is actively almost like having this issue where when you've worked on a project for a long time and you're into the slog end part of the process, but you come up with a shiny new idea, how do you maintain focus on your original project? Or do you actually allow yourself to think about the new idea to kind of get it out of your system?
Let me put it in context of making a show, just because this is the hardest thing about being a showrunner. There is a point in a season where you haven't finished the first episodes. You're still doing music and editing and visual effects. You're actively writing the next few. You're prepping and shooting a bunch, and you're starting to talk about the end of the season. And so if it's 22 or 20 episodes, you've got almost never, it's never all of it, but it's usually 10 or 12 in your head that you're working on at some point. My rule is the one that's currently in my typewriter or on my computer is the one that I have to finish first, is the one that needs the most of my brain. The stuff that I'm finishing, it becomes like, I don't do the mix. I have to attend the mix. I'm not the mixer. I'm not going to pretend I'm the visual effects artist. I have to give notes. They're not my thing. I'm not the composer, for God's sakes. I'm not going to write the music, but I will chime in on it. I am the writer or the rewriter of the thing that's currently. So what requires the most of my creativity in the moment is the one that I focus on the most, and the rest I can look at tired. The rest I can look at not fully, and especially the ones at the end. Yeah, we have to do those. We'll get to them, and I have other people who work for me who they're the ones who are at the stage of the one that's in their typewriter, potentially, or at least pitching it, or where could we go with this? So that's, you're juggling. You can't worry about the ones in the air. You have to worry about the ones in your hand.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're, obviously awesome at delegating. I'm not saying Rebecca's not good at delegating, but But
Well,
she's
you
not
don't
great at
want to.
delegating. So no. How do you develop that, or where does that come from?
I'm not as good at. I have to know a little bit about everybody's job, but I know I'm not a production designer. I know I'm not, God knows, a production accountant, or an editor, or I can come up with ideas. I can tweak, especially in editing. There's a lot I do to the actual. I affect it a lot during my cut, but I'm not physically touching the equipment. I'm not going to pretend to be able to do that. And I think it becomes dangerous when for me, it would become dangerous when I do, if I did, because I know, for example, I've said this many times, I know I can hire a director better than I would be. Just know it. I've been around sets long enough to know that I would not, where I will do it as a writer and as a producer, I might not fight for that hour of overtime for that shot, Robert, who is Robert Cooper's excellent director, has no problem doing that. He knows in his heart, because he wanted to do this, that he wanted to be a director, and I know, like Jonathan Glassner always wanted to be a director and is an excellent director. I always wanted to be a writer, and though I probably could competently direct, I know I could hire somebody better.
Right.
And so that isn't delegation. That is, and to put it another way, I've said this before too. I think when television or film is really good, it's because that other person, that other expert in their field, was allowed to fulfill their complete potential in that role without me dictating, no, this is what I want. Make it look like this. Do it like this. And I've had, of course you have an idea of what the prop should look like. And where they're wildly off the mark, you go, this is not what we need. But to dictate and say it must be like this, you're not getting the most creativity out of the people you're working with. And they're not showing up to work trying to be as creative as they can be, because they know you're just going to tell them what to do anyway. And so I've never had that approach. And I've never liked it when it's been done to me as a writer. And maybe that's the reason. Like whenever somebody said, write this, do it exactly like this, I've never really excelled at doing that.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's the testament to you creating that family, the uplifting, positive set behind the team that
it's not you're giving me too much credit. When somebody's really good at their job, you're an idiot for not acknowledging that they're not really, really good at their job and not maximizing their ability. I mean, it's just being it's not necessarily just because I'm being nice. It's because I'm being smart enough to recognize, oh my God, this person's really, really good at this. Let them do it, for God's sakes.
Well, good on you, Brad. Good
okay.
on you.
I'll take that.
Yeah. If I could give you an award, I would. I'm coming to Basingstoke with a big old.
But you invited me to the party.
Yeah.
I don't need the award. I got invited to the party.
Yeah.
Full
Glass
circle.
champagne in hand. Well, there are a couple of fan questions. I don't know if you've got.
Go ahead. I have a few more minutes.
Yeah. We're gonna change some lives now. We're gonna answer some. I mean, these are like any kind of questions, so not necessarily mental health or anything. Rebecca, should we get some of the questions up? Stargate Cass needs some life advice. Brad, I'm burnt out. Should I, 1, quit my job and move to Portugal? 2, just finally get some sleep, or something else?
I'm not going to say something else. I would not quit. I don't know what your job
I
is.
I
So
I think she should move to Portugal. That's what I would
I
do.
think she should get some sleep.
Some sleep.
I
Okay.
think get some
That's
sleep
a
and
good
wake
one.
up and see how you feel in the morning. That
Okay.
would make sense.
Let's see what the next question is. Unholy mess of a girl. When did you know you wanted to be a professional writer? Ooh.
15.
Okay.
15. I didn't know, but when I wrote some stuff when I was 15, and people went, "This is pretty good,"
Yeah. I should be a
and I went,
pro.
I should consider that then. I would have gone into journalism too.
Mm.
Writing journalism. And I loved write a good essay in high school. So I guess I was always. I have a family of artists. My mother's a very, well, as you know, a skilled
Yeah.
artist, and my brother is a brilliant carver and painter too. And my other sisters, both my sisters now. My one sister has been an artist her whole life and kind of doesn't do it anymore. And my other one, my other sister, picked up painting out of the blue and has always said, "Oh, I don't have any talent. I've never been creative," and her work is terrific.
Mm.
And even though I tried, of course, and I painted a lot, did a lot of artwork as a young person, I stopped using that muscle, and it's gone. Any ability I had as a young person is gone. So all of my artistic sensibility goes into writing now.
Okay. Lovely. All right, next question. I think these are slightly faster.
Good.
If you had a guest spot on The Simpsons as yourself, which recurring character would you want to be in a scene with, and why? It's from Beth.
Well, wait a minute. If I'm a guest spot in The Simpsons as myself, I'd want to be in. Oh, you gotta be
Yeah.
Homer. You gotta be in the scene with Homer.
Would you be at Moe's or
Although,
something? Oh, is there any
although
golfing?
Mo is pretty funny.
Yeah. All right, next question, Rebecca. In fact, I can probably help control. Okay. Carrie asked, if you were to find yourself invisible like Jack in the scene from the 200th episode, what are 2 things you would do? Just gonna get in trouble.
There's no safe answer to that question.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Rebecca, my bad.
I would panic. I would panic because all the laws of physics would have been broken.
Casually, Sandra asked the original question, and then I've expanded it. Golf tournament: O'Neill versus Shepard versus Teal'c versus you. These are the characters. Who wins?
The characters.
And then you in real life.
I gotta think that I've played golf with all 3 of these guys, so it's very hard to not think of the people. They're all very athletic golfers.
Yes. Yeah.
Christopher can hit it a ton, and does. Trouble is, it's
He
all he wants
slices.
to do.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Rick, I've only golfed with a few times, and it was years ago. And there's such a natural athlete in there.
Mm.
Joe's probably the most skilled out of all of us, so I'm going to go with Shepard.
Yeah. Is Rick the tallest of the 3 of them?
I think Chris and Rick are both 6'3". Might be 6'1".
Yeah.
Rick might be 6'1".
I'm assuming that with
Let's just say if they lined up in a picture and I'm in the middle, you could crop me out.
Yeah. Okay. Rebecca, next question. Gems, would you rather never read a book again or never watch TV again?
Never read a book again.
Okay.
Because
I think we can stick them on the side. We don't need to full screen them at this moment. All right.
Yeah.
Next one. Let's see. Laura. Ooh, Captain Carter or Major Carter or Dr. Carter or Lieutenant Colonel Carter or Colonel Carter or General Carter, because we all know she is. What's your favorite Carter?
Oh, I gotta love General Carter.
Yeah.
Because she's finally in charge and doesn't have to defer to anyone anymore.
Love it. Do we have any more questions, Rebecca? I can't remember. Sophie, if you're selected to be First Prime, which Goa'uld would be your preferred false god?
I would never in a million years get selected to be first prime. It just wouldn't happen because I would be a Shova, right?
All right.
Have to learn that term.
What else we got? Another question, Rebecca, or is
We
that?
got. We're almost out of time, Lawrence.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
I'll do one more. Is
Just
this from you?
This is from me. So, do you consider flight a superpower, and would you rather have flight or invisibility?
Oh, flight.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Flight. Oh my God.
Okay.
I have flying dreams. I don't have invisibility dreams.
Okay. Well, let's end it here.
Okay.
I was going to play a question from my brother. He was on
Oh,
last
go
time.
ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Let's load up Franklin's
We have to
question.
frame it with family.
I don't have anything grand or anything like that, but hopefully this will like bring up something nice. But just what is the last thing you watched, read, listened to, anything like that really got you thinking, that you really enjoyed for whatever reason, and yeah, just elaborate on that.
Well, we were just talking about it. The last thing I watched, if you want to be really specific, is Master of the Air. I'm still watching it. It's brilliantly shot. It's the visual effects are mind-numbingly good because it's television, for God's sakes, and it looks real. It's photoreal.
Yeah.
But we were also discussing Stall Horses, so I can't get that out of my mind either. I mean, it is so good. The television, it's just such good television. We've gone through a little period of time of some pretty high-end TV, and I think I would be remiss without saying season 3 of Picard, because
also amazing. Yeah.
I just loved it, and I actually fanboyed Terry Matalas.
Yeah.
I was so jealous of his experience because I thought, oh well, that ship has sailed. And no, it hadn't. He got to work with the Next Generation cast and embraced everything about them that and made it work and was entertaining, and it was so well shot, and the cinematography was amazing and so much fun. I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I so much so I haven't revisited it. I'm going to wait and watch it in a couple of years so that I can enjoy it afresh.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that was pretty fun. That was pretty inspiring, and bizarrely, because the emotion I was feeling the most was envy.
It's not good for your mental health, Brad.
That's true. But I was thinking, oh man, this guy got to do this. Oh man, I told him so. I congratulations, and he got a bunch of awards for it. So good on
him. Yeah, good. Well, at the beginning of Apologies, 2 hours ago, I had said, "Do you have a question for our next guest?" I don't know if you were able to think of one.
Oh, I kind of touched on it in the show. The question is, if you hated SGU 10 years ago, have you changed your mind today? Because I'm getting a lot of that. Getting a ton of that.
And unfortunately for the fans, it's a little bit too late for them.
It's a little too late. I know, but it makes me feel a little bit better when people go, yeah. I watched it now, and I kind of regret hating it then.
Well, Brad,
maybe we were ahead of our time a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brad, and taking more time than I.
I've got my wife. No, I have so many errands to run, and I've got to get going on them. So
yeah, absolutely. So I'll see you in a month, right? And
see you in a month at Basingstoke.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brad, and yeah, you take off, and then I'll wrap up here with everyone else. So, okay.
See you later. How do I take off? Take me off.
I think there's a little. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Wow. I hope everyone really enjoyed that. I obviously wanted to keep someone like Brad, who's so knowledgeable and experienced, as long as possible. maybe I'll get in trouble for it, and he'll never come on ever again. That's probably reality. Anyway, no, that's not true. So we're supposed to have a social hour, I guess, coming up. We'll still do that. I was gonna have social hour be like 2 hours and the live stream 1 hour. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Rebecca can pop the link, but you can actually just find the social hour link in the description below. And for any other questions around writing or creative writing or anything else that we haven't tackled, unfortunately, you only have me to answer your life's questions. But I'm very happy to do that. Because I know the meaning of life. Also, if we're obviously doing this as part of embracing mental health as a fandom, just like as an overall series, we have got a couple of challenges. We've got like a 60 for 60 watch along challenge where I don't even think we're halfway through. We might be nearly halfway through. So I don't know if Rebecca, you want to throw that onto the screen. Basically, every day we are posting episodes to watch. You don't have to follow along every single day. If you don't have time, but yeah, and we kind of discuss sometimes fun, sometimes tragic, sometimes interesting, stories that kind of come up through that. And then if you're into fitness and you want to use fitness as a way to help with your mental health, we have a gate to gate challenge. We are traveling as a unit, as a companion unit, 8,802 miles together. So everyone's just putting an extra walking miles and running miles and cycling miles, as well as a fitness activity. I don't think like flights are going to count. But we want to go from, Cheyenne Mountain all the way to the ancient outpost in Antarctica. Together, we have hit Chevron 1, which means we are at least 1/7 of the way there, which is something like 1,000 miles. I can't remember exactly the number. And right before this event, I sent an email to, I think, most of you. There must be some people that weren't necessarily signed up yet. We have kind of locked down the designs of the book. It's the theme universally together, around constellations and how we can kind of feel alone, sometimes in a really big world and universe. And yet when we look up, there's a constellation that we can all see, and it kind of binds us together. So we kind of call that universally together. And we've created also a very beautiful book plate. And the book plate has a kind of combination that's inspired by grid dot journals and bullet journaling, which we know has become very popular in the last few years for mental health, to help you focus and keep track of things and get things out of your mind, as well as it has the constellation kind of theme, like almost like stars. So it's not exactly just a solid grid. So anyway, you can check your email and we'll be sending out more things like that, because we're going to hopefully be able to allow folks to start pre-ordering next week. And then you'll be able to get for free that limited edition book plate. And so, yeah, if you're going to Basingstoke or you're going to one of the other conventions, maybe you can get Amanda to sign it or something like that. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can just write your own name and your own, maybe your contact details in case you ever lose it, which is the original intention of a book plate. All right. So I think that's everything. I will see you all next time. Next time is going to be with Terrell Rothery. Is that right? And in a couple of weeks. And then, yeah, we'll see you in Basingstoke soon after that. Otherwise, see you in the social hour. All right. Bye.